Good morning, everybody, and happy Wednesday to you. You are here for episode 175 of Standing Out, a daily podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership. And we are so excited that you are here with us. We've got a great show today. In fact, we've had phenomenal shows all week. We did something different on Monday. We did a Halloween special. If you didn't catch that, go back and check that out on our YouTube channel, especially if you want to see some fun costumes and all that. We had a great time. Yesterday, I had the chance to celebrate the one-year anniversary with my good friend Jennifer Carpus-Romaine as the executive director of the TMSA. Super excited to have her on the show. It was a great conversation. So check that one out yesterday. Today, we got a great show with an author, a sales author. Super excited to have him on the show. And then tomorrow, we have a special episode, everybody. We're going to be at the CSCMP St. Louis Roundtable at the Worldwide Technology Raceway to do our first live studio audience show with our guest, Adam James of CH Robinson. Man, it's going to be a phenomenal show. Can't wait to do that. I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited. It's all going to be great. Looking forward to that as well. And then on Friday, we round out the week with my good friend Josh Breeze from Freightvana. It's going to be phenomenal what he's doing over there, building their brand. So make sure you come back every day at 10:30 a.m. Central for episode of Standing Out, or catch us on demand on YouTube channel or on here on LinkedIn Live, Facebook, Twitter. We'd love to see you in the show or afterwards watch on demand. Also want to give a shout out to our sponsor, to TAFS, or the good guys in freight factoring. They are helping owner operators and carriers keep those wheels turning with cash flow resources, discounts on fuel, tires, other resources as well, like insurance needs and dispatching services and all those great things. So make sure you check them out at tafs.com and tell them that Trey sent you. Or to make it even easier, simply click on the link that's going to be in the comments today that Ruth's going to put in there. That's going to take you right to my landing page with TAFS so they know that I sent you, and get started with them today. And hey, listen, if you don't have trucks, that's okay. If you're a freight broker, you can also become a referral partner for TAFS to make sure all the carriers that you work with have all the resources that they need. So click on the link and get started today. And while we're here, listen, if you're behind the wheel of a truck, thank you so much for what you do. You are the heroes of the supply chain, and we appreciate you so much. So thank you for the sacrifices that you make to keep the economy moving. We appreciate that greatly. Also, if you would, take a moment to check us out online at betaconsultinggroup.com. We are helping companies move out of the realm of obscurity to becoming a known and trusted brand so they can grow revenue. So fill out a form and we will follow up with you. Love to work with you, hear your story, and help you tell that story in a very exciting and dynamic way. While you're there, pick up some swag, people. We got some great items in the swag store, and it's all about creating a community of people that are pursuing excellence. So be sure to check that out. Pick up a t-shirt, water bottle, coffee mug, whatever it is, and be sure to use coupon code THANKFUL, all capital letters, THANKFUL, because it is Thanksgiving season all month long here. You can get 20% off your entire order by putting in THANKFUL at checkout, and we would love to see your swag when it shows up at your house. So wear it, use it, whatever, take a picture and send it to us. We would appreciate that. All right, it is time to bring our guest onto the show today. Super excited to have this conversation because as somebody who's been in sales for a long time, having resources that help grow in that field is awesome. And certainly in regards to selling to executives, which is an entirely different ballgame within sales. And our guest today is an expert at that. I've been doing that for over 3 decades. So super excited to welcome to the show my good friend, Dr. Stephen Timme. Stephen, how are you?
I'm doing great, Trey, and hope everyone out there is also doing well. I know you're in that Q4 crazy mode, so appreciate you taking some time out of your day, and hopefully Trey and I will give you some really good insights.
It is a crazy time of year, especially from a sales perspective, especially with a lot of things going on. We have a midterm election coming up. We have a little bit of a downturn in the economy. We've seen that, companies laying off, and two consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth, and that is definition of a recession. And we're heading into a new year, 2023, the holidays and budget season. So it is a pretty wild time from a sales perspective. And just real quick before we get started, tell everybody just 30 seconds a little bit about yourself and about your experience and what you're working on.
Yeah. So real quick, I started my career as a professor of finance at Emory University here in Atlanta, where I lived. I absolutely positively loved it. But I also like money. So I decided when I became a professor, I was not going to take a vow of poverty. And I was very, very fortunate to be able to do some consulting for some name brand companies like, Georgia Pacific and UPS, and Eli Lilly goes on and on. And it was always, Trey was always like almost always brought in by the finance group, but to work with operations to help them better articulate how the things they're doing and their ideas add value. Well, by pure dumb luck, I was doing an open enrollment workshop at the Georgia Institute of Technology, Georgia Tech. And this guy from a software company comes up and says, "Oh my God, this is the kind of stuff we're trying to do in sales. Have you ever done that?" I said, "Well, no." And so that was really the beginning of it, like transferring how what your customers are doing internally on a day-to-day basis and translate that into, hey, here's how you can be more relevant to these sales executives. So that's the past. And what we're working on now is really trying to make what we do even more and more and more intuitive, so that folks can be more relevant, because my background's finance. Most people say the word finance and you say, "Do you want to learn some finance or shove bamboo shoots up your fingernail?" They grab the bamboo shoots every time. And we're just trying to make it more and more intuitive, and not give them MBAs in finance. That's crazy. But how are you more relevant to a VP of supply chain or a CFO type like myself? How do how do you do that?
We're cut from the same cloth in many ways because you were a professor at Emory University. I became a high school physics teacher, and the same thing. Like, I'd still be teaching physics today if it paid anything, but unfortunately it doesn't. And so we had to move on. But as a consultant, you really are still in education. You really are still a
You
teacher in
are.
many ways. A lot of those skills are transferable. You just get paid a little bit better for it, which is a great thing. So I can appreciate and understand that.
Well, Trey, here's my joke is that, I'm getting older, and one day, I'll always have Finlistics in my heart, but I won't be with Finlistics. My joke now is I may go back to the university, except the difference is this time I know what I'm talking about. But
That's unfortunately there might be some more truth to that. Life experience gives you a little bit more to run off of.
a lot.
That is for sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about what the season that we're in right now. Before we get into your book, what advice do you have for sellers who are in this season where there's a lot of kind of chaos, a lot of volatility, a lot of unknowns, end of the year, budget issues? What's like your number one
Yeah.
tip for salespeople in this season?
Yeah, well, now more than ever. I mean, think about it. Buying groups are larger, right? They're much further down the buying journey. Some of them don't even want to talk to a salesperson. I was at a conference where I think Forrester said 25% of enterprise decisions thereabouts are made digitally. They don't even talk to salespeople. So, a couple of things. One, you got to know your customer. And I know I'm saying the obvious, but research shows that most people don't. Got to know your customer, really do a solid job. Okay, if you're trying to trade improve margins, you're trying to grow revenues, you're trying to mitigate risk, here's how our solutions help, and here's how we've done it for others. And then the other part is, how do I customize it with all these different buyers for individual, stakeholders, and then show them the cost of delay. I ask this all the time. Well, do they know how much it's cost them each week, month they delay a decision? I don't think so. Yeah. So, I mean, easier said than done. I understand that. But in today's environment, you have to have those four things, or, I mean, they're table stakes. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of sales organizations are just not there.
Yep. I love that last question you talked about is what is the cost of delay? Because some people say, hey, it's not the right time, or hey, we're going to wait, or we're going to hold off. And there's a number of reasons why they might do that. But a lot of times salespeople struggle, and I've definitely struggled with this in the past, just not feeling
Yeah.
comfortable doing this or not knowing what to say. But to say, hey, what's it going to cost you to not make a decision right now?
Yeah. And
What's
a
that?
real live example of that is one of our customers. We're working with a retailer, and they got all this cool technology, but mainly it helps them provide greater customer insights, right? So don't sell technology, folks. Solve problems. So anyway, so they used it. They said, look, we're all, nodding our heads, yes, these are the benefits. Well, here's the cost of delay if you don't do this. And the CFO jumps in and says, you know what? I'm going to not build 3 stores this year that I had budgeted to be able to invest in this and roll it out to your organization. So when you can show concrete benefits, for-profit entities, not like selling to the government, we can juggle things. We can do those kind of things.
Yeah.
Speaking
Yeah. Grant Cardone talks about that a lot in some of his sales training as well. It's like, hey, well, what would it cost you to not do this today? Like, how much revenue are you going to lose to not do something today? And it's a great question. It's one of those questions that, again, a lot of people don't necessarily think about, but it's an important question to understand that, which is huge. Good morning, Brenda. Thanks for joining the show. Brenda's on the show, says hello. Good morning. Super excited to have her along with us today. So let's jump into your book real quick, Stephen. So you were gracious enough to send me not only a copy of your book, Inside Lead Selling, but you actually signed it for me. Man, I feel super special about that. So thank you so much for sending that. Talk a little bit about this book, Insight Led Selling, and what led you to write this book.
Yeah, so Insight Led Selling, have been doing this for many, many years, have been able to engage with our companies, engage with literally thousands of enterprise sellers around the world. I consider a lot of them to be my friends. And so, you see all the statistics, like, buyers believe 80% of buyers think that sellers don't understand their business, right? Or they don't understand their financial performance, or they can't align their solutions with the customer's goals. And, that's just not right. And I still have that professor in me that says, we need to change this thing. So that's what started myself, Melody, my colleague Melody, and I said, okay, we got to put all this stuff together. And people would ask, like, what is there something that's consolidated? So that was really one of the reasons. And being from that academic, I enjoy doing this kind of thing. But secondly, it's like, come on, we got good friends out there, and I'm sick of this. Well, sellers, they can't do this, or they're not smart enough to do this. Like BS. So we talked about it for a few years, and then the beginning of 2020, I was talking to Melody. I said, Melody, we're either going to write this damn book, or I never want to talk about it again. I don't like talking about things. Well, COVID hit. Not traveling, and we were very fortunate to team up with a company called Scribe Media, a blatant plug for them. So they would interview us. They put the book together. We gave them a lot of materials, and it's been great. It's a lot of fun, and I enjoy sending it to folks like you and others. It's just get the word out.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And again, as I mentioned earlier, and I think we said this before the show today, in my career, I've pretty much sold to director level, buyers for the most part, operations, buyers, those types of people. And it's a different sell when you're talking to an executive, talking to a CEO. How would you, characterize the main differences between selling more to that director level and really selling to a CEO?
Yeah, they're seeing that, not, dumping on any directors and that they're doing their job.
Yeah, absolutely.
The ones I know do a great job. They're seeing the bigger picture, right? If they're publicly traded, well, I have to answer to shareholders, as an example. Or if you're a private company, right? Well, a lot of private companies are saying, there's a lot of money on the sidelines there. I want to sell the company, or I want to leave it to my kids, or I want to do this and that. So a couple of things. One, they're seeing the bigger pictures. They can make trade-offs. They're looking at overall performance versus a line item. And so, that's one of the biggest difference is that, hey, I'm trying to grow return on investment, as an example, or I'm trying to do this. But Trey, what's also interesting is in the book, we interviewed a dozen executives from companies like Coca-Cola, AT&T, Procter & Gamble. My favorite, Honey Baked Ham, which I think is local. Talked to the CMO, but she wouldn't give me any coupons. I was so disappointed.
Come on, that's disappointing.
Come on. Anyway, no, but it was interesting. If you had to net everything out, as much you think these executives are like gods or something, the consensus was, tell me something I don't know. Wow. Well, you got this big staff, and then you could hire and consult me, a seller. Yeah, that's what they said. Show me the business and financial benefits, right? And make my life easier. Those are the three major takeaways. Now, I want you to buy the book anyway, but that kind of nets it out. So these executives, they have the bigger picture, but they're not these gods or goddesses that maybe think they are. Their heads down too. And enterprise sellers can tell them, I think, a lot that they don't already know, but bigger picture, and show the alignment with goals.
Yeah, it's a different way of looking at it, because operations and directors tend to see just kind of their sphere, what they're focused on, what pain point do they have that they want to get solved with a technology solution or service or something like that. And yeah, I think asking that bigger picture to a CEO, hey, what's your goal here? What are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to sell the company in 5 years? Or are you trying to generate revenue, like you said? Are you passing it on to kids? Are you trying to get into a healthier state? Like what's the goal? And as an executive now myself, because now I'm in the position for the first time, I could answer those questions. If somebody would ask me those questions, I could answer those. And so starting to see it that way, I think is really important. For those who are in the comments, by the way, we've got the link to buy it on Amazon. So if you're interested, go ahead and click on that and pick up a copy of Dr. Timme's book and check it out. One of the things that you said in here that I thought was really, it was very straightforward, but again, it kind of goes to what you just talked about is you got to start thinking like an executive. How do you recommend that sales professionals do that when they maybe have never been an executive or never been in that chair?
Yeah. A couple of things. One is see what they're saying. So I tell people all the time, just read the letter to shareholders. Gee, the CEO of Procter and Gamble or Colgate-Palmolive, he's talking about growth. He's talking about gross profit margin. He's talking about, trying to expand the business. Just start reading some of this stuff and seeing what they think about. The other thing, Trey, there's so much information out there. I use YouTube. There's other resources. Okay, I'm calling on Colgate or I'm calling on whoever it is. Let me look at an interview, right? On, CSNBC or, whatever it might be. What are they talking about? It was really cool. I think it was not that long ago. We help people talk to all kinds of different executives. So I wonder what the CMO of Microsoft is talking about. Well, there it is on YouTube. And so one, just start listening to how they think. And then the other is a big part of this is, well, they're talking about expanding revenues. They're talking about profit margin expansion. How do our solutions help? Don't get into the numbers right now. Right. In fact, I was very fortunate to work with Walmart a number of years ago, and Tom Shoywoods, the CFO. We're both finance type. I'd come around, hey, Tom, he goes, calm down. Stephen, tell me how this is going to benefit and then how much. So read the shareholder letter, search them out on YouTube as an example, or whatever you want to use, and then start thinking about, wow, if I was sitting across the desk and I knew that, Procter and Gamble or Colgate-Palmolive was trying to expand their margins by X. And the CEO said, hey, Trey, tell me how you've helped others in my industry expand margins. Have that story. You're already you're thinking like an exec and you're talking like an exec.
Yeah. I think that's really critical to figure out a way to put yourself in those shoes, especially if you've never been an executive, because that's the hard part. But, these are great tips, thinking about, how many sales professionals have read through a financial report or, a shareholder letter? I can tell you it's been limited on my part. I've read a couple that Brad Jacobs has put out because I know him online, but I haven't sought it out myself. And so these are great tips to think through how to start thinking like an executive.
And they're understandable. Really, the shareholder letters, they're designed to be consumable. So don't worry about, getting too technical and all that kind of. Most of them are very consumable. They got nice pictures too.
Yeah. Talk for a minute about, in your book, you talk about the power of one.
Yes.
Talk about that idea real quick and what that means. Because again, from a financial perspective, I think a lot of salespeople, obviously too many salespeople try to sell features and not outcomes. They don't sell the outcomes. But when you talk about the power of one, you're really digging into the financial side of things. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So let's use an example. This is an example. So a lot of retailers are saying, hey, we want to grow revenues by providing a differentiated omni-channel experience. Well, you got merchandising, you got marketing, you got our friends in distribution logistics involved. So again, they're much further down the buying journey. So what you want to do is much earlier on say, Trey, my understanding is that you're trying to have goods closer to the customer, distributed logistics as an example. And what that would do is that it would increase cross-sell, upsell, reduce churn, because now they're getting it the next day, or they can pick it up the next day. Do I understand that right? Yeah, I do. All right. So tell the story how. Well, let me share with you how we've helped others do this. And at this point, right, I don't really know what your cross-sell, upsell is. I really don't know what your churn is. But what we can do is use some industry averages. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that churn is 8%, whatever it is. I can say, Trey, well, okay, here's how we've helped others. And for a company your size, and I'm just applying some industry averages, each 1% improvement is around, I'm making this number up, 20 million, and I've shared with you how we've helped others do something like that. How does that compare to your own internal analysis? And they do it. Trey, they do this. This is where I got the idea. I wish I was that smart to create this my own. So now he's like, all of a sudden, oh my God, this is our maybe second meeting. And this guy's already thrown out, not a promise, but connecting it to what I'm responsible for from a financial perspective. And then what I can do, Trey, the most common response is that close? They'll say it's close enough. Hey, Trey, would you mind me asking what's the goal? That SOB CFO's told me I need to bump that up 10%. Oh, so you're looking for 200 million. That's about right. So you've made that financial connection that most people don't do. They go way, way, way down, and people get bored and everything else. So it's a great conversation starter as long as it's not positioned as a promise. I haven't seen a company yet we couldn't take 20% out of that. What? Come on.
Right. No, I think that's important, especially, when you're setting the right expectations. But as you said, talking a little bit more on the financial terms, because especially for executives, a lot of them, the financial side of things really is the most important side of it for them. They're managing shareholder expectations and, profit margins and those types of things. And so being able to speak to that really puts you into their world in a very meaningful way. Whereas if you're just selling features or those types of things, you're going to miss it. Yeah, exactly. It just doesn't hit. Operations, you might get away with selling with features, right? Maybe. But at the same time, it's all about outcomes. It's all about outcomes.
Tell me how we're going to have more on-time deliveries, or tell me how we're going to squeeze 1% more yield off the machines. How that's done, I don't think they really care. I mean, as long as it's legal.
Right. The mechanics of it are much less important than the outcomes, the results.
Exactly.
How's this going to make my life easier? How's it going to make my time at home with my family at night less interrupted, or whatever it might be, based upon what they're trying to accomplish.
From the financial side, and again, you don't have to have an MBA to do this stuff. Everyone says, oh my God, I got my degree in psychology. Okay. One of the best people I ever met had their degree in journalism. Oh my God, she could communicate. She could get everything on one page, not 30 slides. But again, let's go back to the shareholder letter, and let's go back to Colgate-Palmolive. He talks about gross profit margin. What's gross profit margin? Google it. It's real simple. And he talks about growth, organic growth. He talks about selling, general, administrative as a percentage of revenues. And so they talk about maybe 2 or 3 areas of finance performance, and then just start thinking, well, how if someone said if we could help you expand margins, how could we do it? Right? It's easy. The other thing, Trey, and this is where my seller friends out there, you all are leaving money on the table. Let me tell you why. If they're publicly traded, they get bonus, and they get bonused a lot. And it's called executive compensation. And you can find it in what we call the proxy statement. But anyway, the other thing, Trey, find out how they're getting compensated. Oh my gosh, 20% is for sales, 50% is for profit margins. And like in the case of the Home Depot, their execs get comped on inventory turnover. Again, it's not that hard. And then start brainstorming with your friends. And by the way, this is a team sport. This is not all on the individual seller out there. And say, okay, they're compensated on growth. How do we help companies, grow the business? Now you're talking about but Trey, don't go in and say, hey, Trey, I know you're comped on these 3 metrics. That's like saying, hey, I know where your kid goes to school, and little Johnny, he's so cute.
I'd be a little forward right out of the gate.
Yeah, just say, Trey, we're really focused on helping you improve performance and areas like, growing the business, expanding profitability, free cash flow, whatever they mention. Now they know that So that means there's just a handful of areres.
Yeah. Not only that, if you're able to help an executive increase their own personal, compensation, of course, that's huge, right? And that makes it even more personal, which is really a fascinating way to think about that. And I absolutely love that. And one thing I also love about your book, I'm going to throw a little secret out there, is that you take some time to define some of these concepts for us that may not know about them. So let me just say thank you for that, because that was very helpful to be able to see some of those, really detailed descriptions and a better understanding of some of these financial terms that we hear a lot, like EBITDA, but we may not actually work in those day to day or understand exactly what they are. So thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate that. All right, Stephen, we got to pause for a moment, because we always like to celebrate the national day, whatever national day it is. It's always fun to do something silly like that. Do you know what national day it is today?
2 days after Halloween, National Day.
That's right. 2 days after Halloween, 20 before Thanksgiving, whatever. It's actually
Deviled egg
National
day.
Deviled Egg Day. Are you a deviled egg fan?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. In
I could
fact,
I could
they don't.
literally just eat that for Thanksgiving.
Well, that's what they do. They hide them from me till they bring out the meal. Because if they have those as hors d'oeuvres, it's like, where'd the deviled eggs
Oh,
go? I don't know.
game over.
Dog ate them? I don't
That's
know.
right. My mom always made a really good deviled egg, and that's kind of where it got started for me. And so I tend to be a little bit particular about that. Funny story, my daughter doesn't like the yolk part, the yellow part. So she hands me the deviled egg and says, "Dad, would you fix this for me?" So I literally lick out the yellow and I hand her the white. She just wants to eat the white part. It's so funny. But yeah, deviled eggs are great. So you're going
Deviled
to have
egg
some.
day.
Yeah, it's great. I don't know why it's so early in the month, but it definitely falls, with Thanksgiving, it does make a lot of
Who
sense.
knows?
That's for sure. All right. We also have a random question of the day every day. So Stephen, I don't know what this question is. It's very random. Our producer gets to do this every day.
Okay.
It could be funny, could be serious, could be a good question. It could be a terrible question. I don't know.
Pressure's on.
Let's see what it is. The random question today is, would you rather live without the internet or live without air conditioning and heating? Ooh, that's a good question. I like that question. Which one would you pick? No internet or no air conditioning and heating?
Oh my gosh. Well, if I lived in San Diego, I could do without the air conditioning and heating.
Right. Geography makes a big impact on this one.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
I like being, I'd have to go without air conditioning and heating.
Isn't that amazing? I would say the same thing because the internet is like such a requirement now. It seems like, it's
Exactly.
I really can't imagine my business or that without internet. I could sweat my way through it, but if I don't have internet, I'm in trouble. So, people, we joke around about this. People lived for eons without air conditioning and heating. That's a newer concept that we have in the last, 100 years, 50 years for air conditioning, whatever, something like that. But yeah, it's like, I'd rather have internet than air conditioning. That's interesting.
Got it.
All right. That's a good question. That wasn't too bad.
Thanks.
All right.
Question person.
That's right. So that was Ruth who did that. She's great at that. She's awesome. All right. So let's switch gears again and come back into the book and what you're doing. So you're working with a lot of, bigger companies. You're working with sales organizations. What do you feel like is the main pitfall that sales reps experience in terms of not being successful? Because in one part of your book, you reference the fact that I think it's like 70% or 57% of sales reps don't hit quota. I can't remember exactly.
Oh God, it's ridiculous. Well, it's a team effort. I think obviously you have to have sellers that are motivated to do the right things. But I when I see this, I look at, okay, sales enablement. The world has changed. What are you doing? And I don't mean to sound critical, but there's a lot of companies that talk about the outside in perspective of customers, and our research shows only about 25% of those actually do it. The organization, right? So my point is that, look, it's got to be a team effort. Sales enablement. Don't just come up with this 2-day, webinar or whatever the heck it is. And okay, we're done. We're done with insight-led selling or outside in. Sales leaders. In fact, sales leaders, you know what? I'm not throwing you out of the game, but I am calling a penalty on you. I'm giving you a warning.
Throw the flag. That's right. Yellow card.
And so, yeah, I mean, like, everyone, the QBRs, are the QBRs really outside in focused? A friend of mine, he does QBRs. He starts off with, hey, how much closer is the customer to their goal of expanding margins? And let's talk about what we're doing. So my point is, and it's a team sport, right? Is that there really has to be a concerted effort to say, okay, what are we trying to get done? How are our customers defining success? And we consistently are nourishing that. We consistently are not overwhelming people, but we are reinforcing that. And that's why I find a lot of these things that they go through all this training, they even buy tools like ours, whatever, or someone else's, but there's not the reinforcement. It's like, if you want to use that, fine. If you don't want to use that, fine. If you want to have an outside in perspective, that's fine. If you don't, it's like, that's crazy. But see, about change management. If you don't have all the parties saying, here's where we're going, here's our North Star, and here's how we're going to do constant nourishment and reinforcement, it's the 20% get it.
Yeah. No, that's so good. And the system, I always say that the system is so important for sales. And it's like a sports team. Like if you take Patrick Mahomes, who's my quarterback for the Chiefs, you take him, and instead of him being drafted by the Chiefs, he gets drafted by the New York Jets or by another team that was struggled with process and structure. I don't think he's the Patrick Mahomes that we see today.
Yeah.
But instead, he's in Kansas City where they've got a great process. And so that just elevates his natural talent and his ability that he has to really be great because of the structure. And I think it's the same way for salespeople.
Exactly. Yeah,
So having
it
that
is.
structure and having all those things in place, some consistency and processes in place, that's really critical for
People,
salespeople.
processes, product.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. Well, hey, this has been a fabulous episode. Thank you so much for being on the show today. We're going to
Thanks,
have you back
everyone.
on here, maybe Q1 as we
Yeah.
start the new year, have you back on and talk about what you're seeing in the marketplace. So I really appreciate you being on the show today. Hope you'll be back to see us soon.
Yeah, thanks, Trey. And again, thanks, everyone. I know your head's down. We're always heads down, but we're really heads down in Q4. So hope you got some good insights from this. And feel free to reach out to me either on LinkedIn or follow our company, Finlistics, or reach out to me. Love to chat with you.
Yeah, those in the audience definitely need to follow on LinkedIn. Follow Stephen on LinkedIn and get some great information on that. And make sure you come back tomorrow for that fun in-studio audience episode with Adam James of C.H. Robinson. Looking forward to that. And everybody have a wonderful middle of your week. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, Stephen. Take care.
Thanks.